Professor Taewon Kim sat alone in his study, the blue light of his screen casting shadows across his tired face. Around him the walls were covered with maps of Earth, images of human battles and notes written in his careful handwriting. After 15 years studying human warfare, he thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong, Professor, a voice called from the doorway. The council is waiting. Taewon looked up to see his assistant June standing there with a worried look. June was young for an Ilari, his skin still the bright blue of youth, his eyes wide and hopeful. "I'll be right there," Taewon said, closing the file on his screen. He stood up slowly, feeling the weight of his discovery like a stone in his chest. "Are you okay?" June asked. "You look troubled." Taewon picked up his data pad and tucked it under his arm. "What I found in the human archives, it's not what we expected. But they're just one species from one small planet," June said, following his teacher down the long hallway. "How dangerous can they really be?" Taewon stopped walking. That kind of thinking is exactly the problem. The Grand Council chamber was the oldest room in the Galactic Alliance headquarters. 8 tall chairs formed a half circle on a raised platform. In each sat a member of the founding species of the Alliance. They watched as Taewon entered the room and walked to the center. "Professor Kim," said Counselor Yoon, the Nilari representative, "we have been waiting for your report on human military history. The Alliance is considering opening full diplomatic relations with Earth, and your insights will help us decide." Taewon bowed his head. "Thank you, counselors. I have spent the last 15 years studying human warfare. I have read their books, watched their battle recordings, and spoken with their military leaders. What I found was unexpected." He touched his data pad, and a large image appeared in the air above him. It showed Earth, a small blue planet that seemed so harmless. "Humans look like us in many ways," Taewon began. "They have 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They are not the strongest species we have met. They are not the fastest. Their technology is still basic compared to ours. But they are perhaps the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." A murmur ran through the room. Counselor Minho of the Terethi leaned forward, his scaled face showing doubt. "How can that be true?" he asked. "Their ships can barely reach their own moon. Their weapons are primitive. They have no psychic abilities. What makes them dangerous?" Taewon touched his pad again. The image changed to show human soldiers in different time periods, from ancient warriors with spears to modern soldiers with guns. "It's not their weapons that make humans dangerous," he said. "It's how they think about war." 6 months earlier, Taewon had visited Earth for the first time. The Alliance had made first contact with humans just 2 years before, and few aliens had been allowed to visit the planet. But as the Alliance's expert on emerging species, Taewon had been granted special access. His guide was a human woman named Hana Lee, a military historian who worked for the Earth United government. She had met him at the landing pad in a place called South Korea. "Welcome to Earth, Professor Kim," she had said with a smile. "I understand you want to learn about our wars?" "Yes," Taewon had replied. "To understand any species, we must understand how they fight." Hana had looked at him with curious eyes. "Most visitors want to see our art, our music, our natural wonders. You're the first who asked to see our battlefields." "War reveals truth," Taewon had said simply. Now standing before the council, Taewon remembered his first day in the Earth military archives. Hana had taken him to a large building where humans kept records of all their conflicts. "This is just one regional archive," she had explained. "Every nation keeps its own records." Taewon had been shocked. "How many wars have humans fought?" Hana had thought for a moment. "Thousands, probably. We've been fighting each other since before we could write." In the council chamber, Taewon showed images of human battles throughout history. "Most species fight wars for simple reasons," he explained. "For food, for land, for resources. But humans fight for ideas. They fight for freedom. They fight for honor. They fight because of words written in ancient books. They even fight over which god they believe in." Counselor Yoon frowned. "That seems illogical." "Yes," Taewon agreed. "And that is what makes them dangerous. Logical enemies are predictable. Humans are not." He showed a new image. A small group of human fighters hiding in mountains, facing a much larger army with better weapons. "This is from a human conflict called the Afghan War. The smaller group should have surrendered or been destroyed. But they didn't fight the way the larger army expected. They hid, they set traps. They struck quickly and then disappeared. They fought for 20 years until the larger army simply went home. They won by not losing, Counselor Minho said slowly. Exactly, Taewon nodded. And this pattern appears throughout human history. When humans face a stronger enemy, they don't surrender. They change how they fight. Taiwan showed more images. Human soldiers digging tunnels, setting traps, fighting at night, using the weather to their advantage. Humans call this asymmetric warfare. When they can't win by the normal rules, they create new rules. The council room was silent now. All eyes were on the images of human battles. But there is something even more important about humans, Taewon continued. Something I only understood after spending time with them. He showed a new image, a human memorial with flowers and candles. Humans remember their wars. They build monuments to fallen soldiers. They tell stories about battles. They make art about their conflicts. War is part of their culture in a way we have never seen before. During his time on Earth, Taiwan had visited many such memorials. At one, a large black wall with thousands of names, he had watched an old human man touch a name and cry. Hana had explained that the man was remembering a friend who had died 50 years earlier. Why do humans remember wars this way? Taewon had asked. To honor those who died, Hana had replied, and to remind ourselves of the cost of war. But doesn't this make humans want to avoid war? Hana had looked at him with serious eyes. Sometimes, but it also teaches each new generation how to fight if they must. In the council chamber, Taewon's voice grew more urgent. Humans learn from every war. They study their defeats more carefully than their victories. They pass this knowledge to their children through books, movies, and stories. Each generation of humans is better prepared for war than the last. Counselor Yoon looked troubled. Are you saying humans enjoy war, Professor? No, Taewon shook his head. They hate war. They fear it. But they accept it as part of their nature. And they are always preparing for the next one. He touched his data pad one last time. The image changed to show a human child playing with toy soldiers. This is perhaps the most important thing I learned. Humans teach their young about war before they can even read. War is not just something humans do. It is part of who they are. The council room was completely silent now. Taewon looked at each counselor in turn. If the Alliance chooses to open full relations with Earth, we must understand this truth about humans. They look peaceful now. They are eager to join the galactic community. But if they ever feel threatened, he let the thought hang in the air. Thank you for your report, Professor. Counselor Yoon said at last. We will need time to consider your findings. As Taewon left the chamber, he remembered his last conversation with Hana before leaving Earth. Do you fear us now? She had asked. Yes, he had answered honestly. She had nodded, not surprised. Good, fear will make you careful. And we should be careful with each other, don't you think? Walking back to his study, Taewon knew the council would not understand. Not yet. They would see humans as a young, weak species eager to learn from the Alliance. They would not see what he had seen, a species that had turned fear itself into a weapon. 3 days after his presentation to the council, Taewon sat in his office reviewing his notes. The council had not yet made a decision about Earth. They wanted more information, more proof of his claims. He understood their caution. What he had told them went against everything the Alliance believed about developing species. A soft knock at his door made him look up. June stood there with a worried expression. Professor Counselor Yoon is here to see you. Taewon stood quickly, straightening his clothes. A personal visit from a council member was rare. Counselor Yoon entered the room with slow, careful steps. Unlike most Nalari, her blue skin had faded to a pale gray with age. Her eyes, however, remained sharp and clear. Professor Kim, she said, I have been thinking about your report. The council is divided. Some believe you are exaggerating the human capacity for war. They think you have spent too much time studying Earth's violent past and not enough time seeing their peaceful present. Taewon nodded. I expected that reaction. I want to understand better, Yoon said, sitting down across from him. Tell me about your time on Earth. Show me what made you fear them. Taewon touched his datapad, and images appeared in the air between them. My first 2 months on Earth were spent in libraries and museums, he began. I read their military histories, studied their weapons, and analyzed their tactics. but it was all academic, theoretical. Then Hana Lee suggested we visit actual battlefields. The image changed to show a wide, open field with small hills and a river running through it. This place is called Gettysburg, Taiwan explained. Almost 200 years ago, humans fought a terrible battle here. Over 50,000 of them died in just 3 days. What were they fighting for? John asked. Half of their country wanted to keep other humans as slaves. The other half wanted to free them. Yoon's eyes widened. They fought over whether to enslave their own kind? Yes, and this was just one battle in a war that lasted 4 years and killed hundreds of thousands. Taewon remembered standing on that quiet field with Hana, trying to imagine the horror that had happened there. What does this place look like now? He had asked her. It's a park, she had replied. People come here to remember, to learn. School children take trips here. You bring your children to places of death? Hana had looked at him strangely. How else will they learn? Now Taewon showed Counselor Yoon more images. Ancient battlefields turned into parks, museums filled with weapons, monuments to fallen soldiers. Humans preserve their war sites, he explained. They don't hide from their violent past. They study it. But surely they have evolved beyond such violence, Yoon said. Their world government, their united planet, these are signs of progress. Taewon shook his head. Earth United is less than 50 years old. Before that, they had nation-states that constantly fought each other. Their global peace is very new and still fragile. He showed her a new image, a massive building with thick walls and small windows. This is what changed my understanding of humans, he said. It's called the War College. Every major human nation has one. This is where they train their military leaders. Taewon had visited the War College with Hana during his 3rd month on Earth. She had arranged for him to sit in on a class called Strategic Thinking. 20 young human officers had gathered in a room to discuss ancient battles and how the lessons applied to modern warfare. Today we're discussing the Battle of Canny, the teacher had announced. One of the most complete tactical victories in military history, and yet ultimately a strategic failure. What can we learn from this? Taewon had watched in fascination as the young humans debated a battle that had happened more than 2,000 years ago. They talked about it as if it had happened yesterday, arguing about what they would have done differently. Notice how they're not just learning what happened, Hana had whispered to him. They're learning how to think about war. Now in his office, Taewon explained this to Counselor Yoon. Humans don't just remember their wars, he said. They study them systematically. They learn from every mistake. Each generation builds on the knowledge of the last. But all intelligent species learn from their past, Yoon argued. Not like this, Taewon insisted. The Alliance teaches peace. We study diplomacy, cooperation, trade. Humans study war even in times of peace. They prepare for it constantly. He showed her another image, a human military exercise with thousands of soldiers, ships, and aircraft. They call these war games, he explained. They practice fighting imaginary enemies. They create scenarios and test their responses. They do this every year, spending enormous resources on it. Yoon looked troubled. If they spend so much time preparing for war, why haven't they destroyed themselves? They almost did, Taewon said. Several times. But each time they came close to total destruction, they pulled back. They learned to fear their own capacity for violence. He remembered asking Hana this same question as they had walked through. A museum dedicated to something humans called the Cold War. How did you survive this? He had asked, looking at models of weapons that could have destroyed all life on Earth. Fear, she had answered simply. We were afraid of what would happen if we used these weapons. Fear kept us alive. But you kept building more weapons even while fearing them, Taewon had pointed out. Yes, Hana had nodded. That's the paradox of human warfare. We prepare for war to prevent it. We build weapons we hope never to use. In his office, Taewon tried to explain this strange human logic to Counselor Yoon. Humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. They believe that showing strength prevents attacks. Now that seems backward, Yoon said. To us, yes, but it has worked for them. The more deadly their weapons became, the more careful they were about using them. Taewon showed her one more image, a small metal object shaped like an egg. This is what humans call a hand grenade. It's a simple weapon that explodes and kills anyone nearby. During my 5th month on Earth, Hana took me to a place where humans learned to use these weapons. He remembered standing behind a protective wall as young human soldiers practiced throwing the grenades at targets. Each explosion had made him flinch, but the humans had seemed calm, focused. "Why are they so young?" he had asked Hannah. "Most soldiers are young," she had replied. "Older bodies don't recover as quickly from injury. Young minds adapt better to stress. You send your youngest to fight your wars?" "We always have," she had said quietly. Now Taewon looked at Counselor Yoon's troubled face. "The most disturbing thing I learned about humans is not their weapons or their tactics," he said. "It's their acceptance of war as normal. They expect it. They prepare their children for it." "But the humans who met our first contact team seemed peaceful," Yoon protested. "They spoke of cooperation, of joining the galactic community." "Yes," Taewon agreed. "Most humans want peace. They dream of it. But they don't trust it to last." He closed the images and leaned forward. "During my last week on Earth, I asked Hannah to show me something hopeful, something that proved humans could change. She took me to a place called the United Nations, where for over 100 years humans had tried to prevent wars through talking instead of fighting." "That sounds promising," Yoon said. "It was." Taewon nodded. "Until I noticed something strange about the building. It had thick walls, small windows, limited entry points. It was designed to survive an attack," Yoon realized. "Yes, even in their place of peace, humans prepare for war." Counselor Yoon was silent for a long moment. Finally she stood up. "Thank you, Professor. I believe I understand your concerns better now." As she turned to leave, Taewon spoke again. "Counselor, there's one more thing you should know about humans." She looked back at him. "They are watching us as carefully as we are watching them. They study us. They prepare for us. And if they ever feel threatened by the Alliance, they will fight." Yoon finished his thought. "Yes. And they will fight in ways we cannot predict." After Yoon left, Taewon sat alone in his office thinking about his last conversation with Hannah before leaving Earth. "Will your people understand us?" she had asked. "I don't know," he had answered honestly. "We have forgotten how to think about war." Hannah had smiled sadly. "We never had that luxury." 1 week after Counselor Yoon's visit, Taewon received a message from the council. They wanted him to present more evidence about human warfare. Some council members still doubted his warnings. They believed he was seeing patterns that weren't there. "They think I'm exaggerating," Taewon told June as they prepared for the new presentation. "They can't believe that such a young species could be so advanced in warfare." "Maybe they're right," June suggested. "Maybe you've been looking at humans too closely. When you study something for 15 years, you start to see it everywhere." Taewon shook his head. "I wish I were wrong. But the evidence is clear. There's a pattern to how humans fight, and it makes them unpredictable." The council chamber was fuller this time. Besides the 8 council members, many advisors and experts had come to hear Taewon's presentation. He recognized faces from the Military Advisory Committee, the Diplomatic Corps, and the Science Division. "Professor Kim," Counselor Minho began, "we have asked you here to provide more concrete evidence for your claims about human warfare. Some of us find it hard to believe that humans represent any real threat to the Alliance." Taewon bowed slightly. "I understand your doubts, Counselor. Today I will show you the pattern I discovered in human military history. It's not just that humans fight wars, it's how they fight them that makes them dangerous." He activated his data pad, and a timeline appeared above the chamber. It showed thousands of years of human conflicts, from ancient battles with simple weapons to modern wars with complex technology. "First, let me be clear," Taewon said. "I am not saying humans want war with the Alliance. Most humans want peace. But if conflict ever comes, we must understand how humans fight." He touched his pad, and the timeline zoomed in on a specific period. This is what humans call World War II. It happened about 200 years ago and involved most of their planet. During this war, I found the clearest examples of the human pattern of warfare. Images appeared showing a large army with tanks and planes invading a smaller country. This was the beginning of the war in a region called Europe. A nation called Germany had better weapons, more soldiers, and a clear plan. They should have won quickly. The image changed to show people fighting in city streets, in forests, and on mountains. But the people they invaded didn't fight the way Germany expected. When their armies were defeated, they didn't surrender. Ordinary people, farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, became fighters. They hid in the woods. They set traps. They attacked at night and disappeared by day. Guerrilla warfare, said a military advisor in the audience. Many species use such tactics. Yes, Taewon agreed. But for most species, this is a tactic of last resort. For humans, it's a fundamental strategy. They have a saying, adapt, improvise, overcome. When conventional warfare fails, they switch to unconventional methods without hesitation. He showed more images. Human fighters hiding bombs in everyday objects, setting traps on paths, using the weather and terrain against their enemies. Humans call these people resistance fighters, or partisans. They celebrate them as heroes. They tell stories about them. They teach their children to admire them. During his time on Earth, Taewon had visited a museum dedicated to these resistance fighters. Hana had shown him simple weapons made from farm tools, homemade bombs, and secret messages hidden in ordinary objects. These people had no military training, she had explained. They were ordinary citizens who decided to fight. Weren't they afraid? Taewon had asked. Of course, Hana had nodded, but they were more afraid of not fighting. Now in the council chamber, Taewon tried to explain this human mindset. For humans, surrender is often seen as worse than death. They have a powerful fear of being controlled by others. This makes them fight long after logical species would accept defeat. He touched his pad again and the timeline moved forward. This pattern appears throughout human history. When humans face a stronger enemy, they don't give up. They change tactics. They find weaknesses. They use whatever tools they have. The images now showed a conflict in a place called Vietnam. A technologically advanced human nation was fighting in a jungle against people with much simpler weapons. In this war, one side had flying machines, advanced weapons, and vast resources. The other side had simple rifles, knowledge of the land, and determination. Logic says the stronger side should have won. But they didn't, Counselor Yoon said quietly. No, Taewon confirmed. The weaker side used the jungle to hide. They dug tunnels. They set traps. They attacked quickly and then disappeared. After many years, the stronger side simply went home. He showed images of the tunnels humans had dug during this war. Some were barely big enough for a person to crawl through. Others opened into rooms where people lived for months or even years. Humans call this asymmetric warfare, Taewon explained. When they can't match their enemy's strength, they find other advantages. During his research on Earth, Taewon had met an old human who had fought in this war. The man had shown him a simple trap made of sharpened bamboo sticks hidden in a hole. We had no fancy weapons, the old man had said. But we knew the land. We used what we had. Weren't you afraid of the bigger weapons? Taewon had asked. The old man had smiled. Of course. But fear is a good teacher. It makes you careful. It makes you creative. In the council chamber, Taewon continued his presentation. The second part of the human pattern is even more concerning. Humans learn from every war. They study their defeats more carefully than their victories. He showed images of human military schools, libraries filled with books about warfare, and young officers studying battle plans. After every conflict, humans analyze what went wrong. They change their training. They develop new weapons. They prepare for the next war even during times of peace. Taewon remembered visiting a human military academy where young officers studied ancient battles alongside modern conflicts. Why? Study wars from thousands of years ago? He had asked their teacher. Because the principles don't change, the teacher had replied. Technology changes. Weapons change. But human nature remains the same. Now Taewon looked at the doubtful faces in the council chamber. You may think I'm describing a uniquely violent species. I'm not. Humans don't want war any more than we do. But they expect it. They prepare for it. They're ready for it in ways we are not. He touched his pad one last time, and the images changed to show Earth's current military forces. Their ships, their weapons, their training exercises. Humans have not fought a major war in 50 years. This is the longest peace in their history. But look at what they've been doing during this peace. The images showed human soldiers training in every environment. Deserts, mountains, oceans, even space. They showed new weapons being tested, new tactics being practiced. They call this peacetime readiness, and Taewon explained. Even without an enemy, they prepare for war. A science advisor raised her hand. Professor, couldn't this just be the natural caution of a species that has nearly destroyed itself several times? They maintain these forces to prevent war, not to start one. That's exactly right, Taewon nodded. Humans don't want war, but they're very, very good at it. And if they ever feel threatened by the Alliance, they will use everything they've learned from thousands of years of conflict. He closed the images and looked directly at the council. The pattern is clear. Humans adapt. They improvise. They overcome. If we ever face them in conflict, they won't fight the way we expect. They'll find our weaknesses. They'll change the rules. And they'll keep fighting long after we think they should surrender. The chamber was silent. Even the skeptics seemed thoughtful now. What do you recommend, Professor? Counselor Yoon asked finally. Respect, Taewon said simply. Treat humans as equals, not as a developing species. Include them in decisions that affect them. Never ever threaten them, even indirectly. And most importantly, learn from them. Their history of warfare has taught them lessons we have forgotten. As the council members began to discuss among themselves, Taewon remembered something Hana had told him on his last day on Earth. Do you know why we're so interested in joining your alliance? She had asked. For knowledge, for trade, for protection, Taewon had suggested. Hana had smiled. Yes, those things. But also because we're tired of fighting each other. We're hoping that with new friends among the stars we can finally put our talent for war to rest. I hope so too, Taewon had said. But in his heart he had wondered if a species shaped by thousands of years of conflict could ever truly change. 2 weeks after his second presentation, Taewon was called to an emergency meeting. The message came late at night, waking him from sleep. Professor, your presence is required immediately, the automated voice said. Security level 1. Taewon dressed quickly. Security level 1 meant something serious had happened. As he hurried through the empty halls of the Alliance headquarters, his mind raced with possibilities. Had the council made a decision about Earth? Had something happened to the human delegation? The meeting room was small and plain with no windows. Inside, Counselor Yoon sat with 3 others. General Dae of Military Command, Director Jin of Intelligence, and Ambassador Suk from the Diplomatic Corps. Their faces were grave. Professor Kim, Yoon said, thank you for coming so quickly. We have a situation involving humans. General Dae activated a screen on the wall. It showed a small Alliance research ship near a distant planet. 3 days ago, one of our science vessels entered a star system at the edge of human space, he explained. They were studying a gas giant. The humans had not claimed this system, so the captain believed it was open territory. The image changed to show 3 human ships approaching the Alliance vessel. The humans intercepted our ship, General Dae continued. They claimed we had entered their zone of interest without permission. They demanded that our ship leave immediately. Did our captain comply? Taewon asked. No, Director Jin said. The captain explained that the system was unclaimed according to galactic law. He refused to leave until his research was complete. Taewon felt a chill. What happened next? The image changed again. Now the human ships had surrounded the Alliance vessel. The humans disabled our engines with some kind of energy pulse. General Dae said. They boarded our ship, removed our crew, and took them to a human station. Then they sent us this message. A human face appeared on the screen, a man with serious eyes and a uniform with many badges. This is Admiral Han of Earth Defense Force, the human said. Your research vessel entered restricted space despite clear warnings. Your crew is safe and will be returned once we verify they were only conducting scientific research. Be advised that all approaches to Earth-controlled space must follow proper protocols. Any unauthorized entry will be met with appropriate response. We await your diplomatic contact to resolve this situation. The message ended. The room was silent for a moment. This is exactly what I warned about, Taewon said finally. The humans felt threatened and they responded with force. But they didn't destroy our ship, Ambassador Suk pointed out. They're holding our people but promising to return them. That shows restraint. Yes, Taewon agreed. They're giving us a chance to resolve this peacefully. But make no mistake, this is a warning. A warning of what? General Dae asked. That they won't be treated as a minor species, Taewon explained. That they expect to be respected as equals. That they will defend what they consider theirs. Director Jin looked troubled. Our intelligence suggested humans were eager to join the Alliance. This action seems contradictory. Not to humans, Taewon said. In their history, nations could be friendly trading partners and still maintain strong borders. Humans believe you can seek peace while preparing for conflict. Counselor Yoon turned to him. Professor, we need your help. The Council has authorized a diplomatic mission to resolve this situation. Ambassador Suk will lead it. We want you to go as an advisor. Taewon was surprised. Me? I'm a researcher, not a diplomat. You understand humans better than anyone in the Alliance, Yoon said. You've studied their conflicts, their negotiations, their thinking. We need that knowledge now. Taewon thought about it. He had spent 15 years studying human warfare from a safe distance. Now he would face it directly. I'll go, he said. But you should know that humans will see this incident as a test. How we respond will shape their view of the Alliance for years to come. 3 days later, Taewon stood on the bridge of a diplomatic vessel approaching the human station. Ambassador Suk was reviewing her notes one last time. Remember, Taewon told her, humans respect strength, but they also respect honesty. Don't try to hide the fact that our captain made a mistake. Acknowledge it, but stand firm on our right to explore unclaimed systems. Should I mention the Alliance's military power? Suk asked. To remind them of the consequences of holding our people? No, Taewon said firmly. Never threaten humans, even indirectly. They would see it as a challenge, not a deterrent. As their ship docked at the human station, Taewon felt both nervous and excited. He had studied humans for so long. Now he would put that knowledge to use. The human delegation was waiting in a large meeting room. 5 of them stood as the Alliance representatives entered. Taewon recognized Admiral Han from the message. Beside him was a woman in a different uniform and 3 others in formal clothes. Ambassador Suk, Admiral Han said, bowing slightly. Thank you for coming. I am Admiral Han. This is General Park, our military commander for this sector. And these are our diplomatic representatives. Suk introduced herself and her team, ending with Taewon. And this is Professor Kim, our expert on human culture and history. One of the human diplomats looked at Taewon with interest. Professor Kim, are you the one who visited Earth last year? Who studied our military history? Yes, Taewon admitted, surprised to be recognized. The human smiled. Hana Lee mentioned you. She said you asked good questions. Taewon felt a small relief. A personal connection, however slight, might help. The meeting began formally, with both sides stating their positions. The humans claimed the star system was within their security perimeter, even though they had not officially claimed it. The Alliance representatives argued that unclaimed systems were open to peaceful research under galactic law. As the discussion continued, Taewon watched the humans carefully. Admiral Han spoke with confidence but without anger. General Park said little but watched everything. The diplomats were polite but firm. During a break, Taewon approached Admiral Han privately. Admiral, may I ask why you disabled our research ship? If you had simply asked them to leave, they might have complied. Han looked at him thoughtfully. Would they? Your captain refused our first request. That was a mistake, Taewon admitted. Yes, it was, Han agreed. And in our experience, clear demonstrations prevent bigger mistakes later. Your ship was not damaged. Your crew was not harmed. But now the Alliance understands that we take our borders seriously. Taewon nodded slowly. A measured response to send a message. Exactly, Han said. We want peaceful relations with the Alliance. But peace comes from mutual respect, not just good intentions. When the meeting resumed, Ambassador Suk took a new approach, one she and Taewon had discussed during the break. We acknowledge that our ship entered an area you consider sensitive, she said. While this area is not officially claimed under galactic law, we respect your security concerns. We propose a formal agreement defining research protocols in border regions. Until such an agreement is reached, Alliance vessels will notify Earth authorities before approaching any system within 20 light-years of human space. The human diplomats conferred briefly, then nodded. We accept this proposal, their leader said. Your crew will be returned immediately. We look forward to establishing clear protocols for future scientific cooperation. As they prepared to leave, Taewon found himself standing next to General Park. You've studied our wars, she said quietly. What did you learn from them? Taewon considered his answer carefully. I learned that humans fight hardest when defending their homes, that you value freedom above safety, that you prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Park nodded. Good observations. And what did that teach you about dealing with humans? That respect is better than fear, Taewon said. That clear boundaries prevent misunderstandings. that humans can be the Alliance's greatest friends or most determined opponents, depending on how we treat them. General Park smiled slightly. Tell your council that we want peace. We want cooperation. We want to join the galactic community. But we will not be treated as children or primitives. We have fought too hard for our place among the stars. On the journey back to Alliance headquarters, Ambassador Suk seemed pleased with the outcome. The humans were reasonable once we acknowledged their concerns, she told Taewon. Perhaps your warnings were too severe. Taewon shook his head. What we saw was human diplomacy at its best. Firm but fair. Clear but not hostile. But make no mistake. Behind those polite diplomats stands the full weight of human military thinking. If we had responded with threats instead of respect, we would have seen a very different side of humanity. As their ship traveled through the darkness of space, Taewon thought about what he had seen. The humans had acted exactly as their history had taught them to act. They had demonstrated their resolve, established clear boundaries, and then offered a reasonable solution. It was not aggression. It was not even truly about the research ship. It was a message, the same message humans had been sending to each other for thousands of years. Respect our strength, and we can be friends. Threaten what we value, and you will face our full determination. And in that simple truth, Taewon found both hope and warning for the future of human alliance relations. 6 months after the diplomatic mission, Taewon stood at the window of his new office in the Alliance Embassy on Earth. The city of Seoul spread out below him, a mix of ancient temples and modern buildings. Lights glowed in the evening darkness and vehicles moved along the streets like rivers of light. After the successful resolution of the border incident, the council had appointed Taewon as special advisor on human relations. His job was to help the Alliance understand humans better and to prevent misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. Professor Kim, a voice called from the doorway. The human delegation is here for the meeting. Taewon turned to see his new assistant, Min. Thank you. Please show them in. The meeting room was designed to make humans comfortable. The chairs were the right size for human bodies. The temperature was set to human preference. Even the lighting was adjusted to match Earth's natural sunlight. 5 humans entered the room. Taewon recognized Admiral Han and General Park from the border incident. With them were 3 new faces. A young woman in civilian clothes, an older man with a serious expression, and a middle-aged woman whose face seemed familiar. Professor Kim, Admiral Han said with a slight bow. Thank you for meeting with us. You know General Park. This is Dr. Lee, our chief scientist, Minister Kang from Earth Government, and Professor Hana Lee, who I believe you've met before. Taewon was surprised to see Hana. During his research visit to Earth, she had been his guide and translator. Now she was part of an official delegation. Professor Lee, he said, bowing to her. It's good to see you again, Hana smiled. And you, Professor Kim. Though I see you've moved from studying our wars to preventing them. A good change, I think. They all sat down around the table. Minister Kang spoke first. Professor Kim, we've asked for this meeting because we're concerned about recent Alliance activities near Earth. Our sensors have detected increased ship movements. Our communications have picked up encrypted transmissions. Some in our military see these as possible signs of preparation. Taewon understood immediately. The humans were worried that the Alliance was planning something against them. Minister Kang, I can assure you that the Alliance has no hostile intentions toward Earth. The increased activity is part of a scientific survey of this sector. The encrypted transmissions are standard procedure for all Alliance operations. Admiral Han leaned forward. Then why weren't we informed of this survey? After the border incident, we agreed to share information about activities near each other's space. Taewon felt uncomfortable. He hadn't known about the survey until now. Someone in the Alliance had failed to follow the new protocols. You're right, Admiral. You should have been informed. I will investigate why this didn't happen and make sure it doesn't happen again. General Park watched him carefully. Professor, you've studied our history. You know how humans react to perceived threats. Some in our military are already calling for increased readiness for deploying our deep space fleet. Taewon understood the warning. The humans were telling him that they were preparing for possible conflict. I understand your concerns, he said, and I appreciate that you've come to talk instead of taking military action. This is exactly why I'm here, to prevent misunderstandings before they become dangerous. Dr. Lee, the scientist, spoke for the first time. It's not just the ship movements that concern us, Professor. Our long-range sensors have detected what appear to be new Alliance weapons platforms being installed in nearby systems. Is this also part of your scientific survey? Taewon was shocked. He knew nothing about weapons platforms. Either Dr. Lee was mistaken, or the Alliance military command was acting without informing the diplomatic corps. I have no knowledge of any weapons installations, he said honestly, but I promise to find out and report back to you within 3 days. Minister Kang nodded. We appreciate your candor, Professor. Earth wants peaceful relations with the Alliance, but we must protect our people. If these are indeed weapons aimed at Earth, we will have to respond accordingly. After the humans left, Taewon sent an urgent message to Counselor Yoon. He explained the humans' concerns and requested immediate information about Alliance activities near Earth. The response came quickly. Return to Alliance headquarters immediately for consultation. Transport arranged for tomorrow. That evening, Hana Lee visited Taewon at the embassy. They sat in the garden watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. I'm sorry about the meeting today, Hana said. Minister Kang can be very direct. Directness is good, Taewon replied. It prevents misunderstandings. Hana looked at him. Is that what you think is happening? A misunderstanding? I hope so, Taewon said. I know the Alliance has no plans for conflict with Earth, but sometimes different parts of our government don't communicate well with each other. It's the same with humans. Hana smiled. Our military thinks one way, our scientists another. Our politicians a third way. They were quiet for a moment, looking at the stars. When you studied our wars, Hana said finally, what frightened you the most about humans? Taewon considered the question. Not your weapons. Not even your tactics. What frightened me was your determination. How you keep fighting even when logic says you should stop. Hana nodded. Yes, it's both our strength and our weakness. We don't know when to quit. But there's something else, Taewon continued. Something I only understood recently. Humans don't just fight with weapons. You fight with ideas, with stories, with hope. What do you mean? In every human war I studied, the side that believed most strongly in their cause often won, even against greater numbers or better weapons. Belief is a weapon humans use better than any species I've encountered. Hana looked thoughtful. And what do you think we believe about the Alliance? I think you want to believe we're friends, Taewon said. But your history makes you cautious. You're ready to believe we might be enemies. Yes, Hana agreed. We hope for the best but prepare for the worst. It's how we've survived this long. The next day, Taewon returned to Alliance headquarters. He was taken directly to a secure meeting room where Counselor Yoon waited with General Dae and Director Jin. Professor Kim, Yoon said, we have a serious situation. The humans are correct. Military command has been installing defensive systems near Earth without informing the Council or the diplomatic corps. Taewon was shocked. Why? This violates our agreement with Earth. General Dae looked uncomfortable. Some in military command believe humans are too dangerous to leave unmonitored. The weapons platforms are a precaution, nothing more. A precaution? Taewon couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're placing weapons near a species that sees any threat as a challenge to be met with full force. This isn't a precaution, it's a provocation. The platforms are purely defensive, General Dae insisted. The humans won't see it that way, Taewon said. They'll see it as preparation for attack. They're already increasing their military readiness. If this continues, we could find ourselves in a conflict that neither side truly wants. Counselor Yoon raised her hand for silence. The Council has already addressed this. Military command has been ordered to stop the installations and to remove those already in place. We've prepared a full explanation for the Earth government, with apologies for the violation of our agreement. Will the humans believe it? Director Jin asked. That depends on how we present it, Taewon said. We need to be completely honest. Admit the mistake. Explain that some in the Alliance fear humans because they don't understand them. Show that the Council is committed to peace. And if they demand more? General Dae asked. Concessions? Restrictions on Alliance movements near Earth? Then we negotiate in good faith, Taewon said firmly. The alternative is to risk a conflict with a species that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. 3 days later, Taewon returned to Earth with Counselor Yoon. They met with the human leadership in a large room overlooking the ocean. The mood was tense as Yoon explained what had happened and offered the alliance's apology. Minister Kang listened carefully, then responded, "We appreciate your honesty, Counselor, and we understand that large organizations sometimes have parts that act without full authorization. It happens in our government too. Admiral Han was less forgiving. This incident has damaged trust between us. Trust that was already fragile. We will need more than words to rebuild it. What do you propose?" Counselor Yoon asked. "Joint monitoring of the border regions," General Park said. "Shared control of the space between our territories. Regular meetings between our military leaders to prevent misunderstandings. And most importantly," Minister Kang added, "recognition of Earth as a full member of the Alliance, not just an associate species. Equal status, equal voice, equal rights." Counselor Yoon looked surprised. "Full membership is a complex process. There are requirements, evaluations, which we will meet," Kang said firmly. "But we need to know that the path is open to us, that we're not being kept at arm's length because some in the Alliance fear us." Taewon watched the humans carefully. This was the real issue. They didn't just want apologies or safeguards. They wanted respect. They wanted to be treated as equals. "Counselor," he said quietly, "this is the opportunity I spoke about, to turn potential enemies into certain friends." Gyun considered for a long moment, then nodded. "The Alliance will agree to joint monitoring of border regions and regular military consultations. And I will personally recommend to the Council that Earth be offered an accelerated path to full membership, based on your demonstrated commitment to peaceful resolution of this incident." The tension in the room eased visibly. Minister Kang smiled. "Then we have the beginning of a true partnership." As they left the meeting, Taewon found himself walking beside Hana. "You were right," she said. "About humans, about what we really wanted. I've had 15 years to study your species," Taewon replied. "I should have learned something in that time." "And what have you learned, Professor?" In the end, Taewon thought about all he had studied, the battles, the strategies, the weapons, the warriors. But most of all, he thought about what made humans fight and what made them stop fighting. "I've learned that humans don't fear war itself," he said finally. "You've faced it too many times to fear it. What you fear is being controlled, being disrespected, being treated as less than you are." Hana nodded. "Yes, that's what we've always fought against." "And I've learned something else," Taewon continued. "Something that gives me hope for the future of our peoples." "What's that?" "That for all your skill in war, you're even better at peace, when you're given the chance to build it on your own terms." Hana smiled. "Then let's hope we both get that chance." As Taewon looked out at the ocean, he thought about how close they had come to conflict. How easily misunderstanding could have led to confrontation. How the very thing he had feared, humanity's readiness for war, had actually helped prevent one. By bringing the humans to talk instead of act. He had studied human war for 15 years and found a new kind of fear. But in that fear, he had also found a new kind of hope. That understanding could be stronger than suspicion, and that respect could build bridges that weapons never could.